Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, the Hunt. Welcome back to the Baseball Head 3, and hopefully you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. As you know, I'm a Mets fan, and one of the things I've always loved about the Mets and the whole situation with the club is they always had great broadcasters. Going back to when I was little hut watching Tim McCarver and Ralph Kiner, and believe it or not, Steve Zabriskie, and Rusty Staub on the broadcast. Mets have always had great broadcasters. Obviously, they got Gary, Keith, and Ron. And they've had great radio people. Gary was a radio guy with Bob Murphy. And, of course, Howie's been the main guy on the radio. Howie Rose has been the main guy since 2006 on the radio. The last 20 years, he's been the main guy. He was there for a couple of years working with Gary. But Howie's actually been the Mets broadcaster for a very long time, for almost 30 years. Over 30 years. I guess since 96 is when they made him the broadcaster at Sports Channel. Then became Fox. So he's been with the Mets, and he's been with the Mets even longer than that. When he used to do Mets Extra, pre and the post game, that was always fun to listen to. I learned so much about baseball from listening to Howie. I don't get too excited about meeting people, but I met him a couple times over the years, and I get more excited meeting the broadcasters than I do the players. To be honest with you, because they're just great, and I listening to Howie since I was a kid, so I came across this, and we know that Howie is slowing down as a broadcaster. He used to broadcast the Islander games for Sports Channel, and then for Fox, he used the Islanders, the Islanders broadcast. He also did New York Rangers play-by-play man on the radio. He's great. I mean, great play-by-play man on the radio. Obviously, he's got the famous Mato from 1994. And he's got a lot of great iconic calls, not only with them, but with the Islanders and, of course, the New York Mets. Obviously, the number one call that he had, that he always points to, is the 9/11 call. Mike Piazza's the home run. And obviously, the Pete Alonso home run on the radio. So I have a lot of sort of admiration for his talent. I've been listening to him my whole life, pretty much. But here we have from Awful Announcing some news on Howie. Mets radio voice Howie Rose cuts road games from his schedule. If you could parachute me into the booth without dealing with traffic and preparation and everything else, then I'd go indefinitely. Now, he had cut back on his schedule last year. He was doing some road games, not a lot. New York Mets radio voice Howie Rose is cutting back his schedule again this season, but as long as it prolongs his career, fans should be happy about the decision. After reducing his schedule to 100 games in recent seasons, Rose has decided to eliminate travel this year. Newsday's Anthony Reber reported Rose will call 84 games this season, working all home broadcasts from Citi Field and 3 Subway Series road games from Yankee Stadium in September. But should the Mets advance to the playoffs, Rose plans to call every game, every home and road postseason game. As far as his future beyond this year, Rose continues to take it one season at a time. Is he going to do the games in Miami? Because that was the one thing that he was willing to do last year. Quote, I'm going to work this whole season, Rose told Reber. And whether or not I work next season is not a matter of whimsy or anything like that. I'll know. When I decide to say it, and it could be at any time, it could be in a couple of years. Who knows? Rose began reducing his schedule after he was diagnosed and started treatments for bladder cancer in 2021. And Rose has similarly addressed his future at the end of recent seasons, stating he expects to return the following year, but reserves the right to reassess once he gets to Florida for the offseason. Thankfully, Rose is back as expected this season, choosing to further reduce his schedule, but working 100 or 84 games in a season can still be a grind. And he is 72 years old, so he's up there. I mean, look at Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez, he's going to be reduced to 90 games, and he's older, a little bit older than a little bit older than Howie is. Quote, it's just that the baseball season, even though my travel has been reduced significantly over the last few years, it's such a grind. What it's done for me is just sort of morph into a different kind of grind because the games themselves are relatively easy. If you could parachute me into the booth at 7 o'clock every night and parachute me back home when the game is over, but dealing with traffic and preparation and everything else, then I'd go indefinitely. Get the parachute ready, Steve Cohen, Because if there's a way for Howie to continue calling games on the radio indefinitely, then the Mets should figure out how to make it work. I mean, he could do it at home. I mean, he could do it at home. I mean, you know. This will be Rose's 4th season with broadcast partner Keith Rad for the Mets on WCBS 880. Rad is excellent. When Rose is out, and pre- and post-game host Pat McCarthy, the son of Rose's former radio partner and current voice of the Philadelphia Phillies, Tom McCarthy, would join Rad in the booth. I mean, McCarthy and Rad are excellent. They're very straightforward, which is great about the Mets radio booth. Very straightforward. They're very much in line to what Bob Murphy always did. That tradition has not changed with the Mets broadcast. There's no like fluff. There's no like, there's none of that nonsense with the Yankees, radio broadcasts they had. The other things that I suppose contribute to an ultimate decision is, do I want to continue leaving my wife home at night all the time? Rose said. Do I want to continue working at night? Do I want to continue finding the energy to prep properly for a game? Those are the things I evaluate. Well, at the end of last season, Rose spoke to Joel Sherman and the Scott Boras whisperer, John Heyman, about not wanting to be a broadcaster who continue working for longer than they should. While Rose may have noticed some changes in his performance, saying the synapses don't fire quite as quickly as they used to. Fans continue to relish hearing him in the booth. He's so good. And he is a connection to the Mets from many years, because he knows Mets history really well. That's another thing you can't like. I don't know if Rad and McCarthy have that, obviously, because they're younger broadcasters. I mean, they're half of Howie's age. That's the one thing that, I mean, Howie knew so many people through the years. I mean, he goes back to the 70s, covering sports in New York. So he has covered everybody, for many, many years. So he knows people back to the original Mets. So that's why if he were to retire and not have him there, that's a connection to the past that the Mets lose. He has more of a connection than Gary does, to be honest with you. And he's more of a historian of the club than, say, Gary is. Howie's more, he'll drop, historical anecdotes about the club to where, you can learn a lot. I learned a lot about the Mets past just listening to Howie over the years when he was doing his WFAN show. And not just know much the pregame and postgame. He was the guy that was doing 7 to 12 at night. And I learned so much about baseball and so much about sports because he could talk about all the sports. He was the number one guy for me, to be honest with you. And but we wish that he was younger, and do games and just have a full schedule. But everybody gets old, I guess. But you let me know what you think about this video, and of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut 3, and I'll see you later.